dashboard. And EC2 is one of the resource from the AWS that we used for Git, Jenkins, GitHub Actions, uh, pipeline setup for all, right? Similarly, there are other resources also we do create from the AWS. Similarly, we do create the resources from Azure. We do create the resources from GCP. Okay, now let me understand why only we need to go for a cloud. So compared to on-premises, uh, 10, 15 years ago, there are no cloud in the market. They are maintaining the physical servers. You might heard about server room in your uh, college days. In your there might be, you might see in the government offices, right? Or in the, or in the somewhere you see this server room, physical servers. Anybody saw that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Especially in banking sector, sir.
Exactly, exactly. Especially in the banking sector, server room. Now, even though they have the physical servers, I'll tell you why still they are using physical servers. So now, cloud coming to picture, they started providing the cloud online resources, not only servers. They provide platform, they provide softwares, they provide servers. So instead of keeping on premises, they started giving it in the cloud itself. Means, instead of, see, we can avoid space, right? Everything we can keep it in cloud itself, in the browser here, right? Suppose if you having this server in cloud, you can keep it everything here instead of keeping it, maintaining it in the physically, right? And some of the banking sectors, they want the high level security. See, anybody can hack, and it's not like only simple way to hack when they are having cloud resources in the resources in cloud. No, it's not the way. They want to keep, maybe there might be having a budget issues, or they wanted to follow the process to keep it in on premises only. Now everyone is moving it to cloud. All the banking, all the financial sectors, like you might heard about the big four, like KPMG, Deloitte, uh, ENY, and one more. So all these financial sectors are moving into cloud only. Everyone are in cloud currently. Earlier, before 10, 15 years ago, they used to maintain servers, all the data physically. So instead of keeping it physically with all the data, they started using this cloud to keep the data, including our server, to keep the data in online. Now this cloud coming to picture. So what they provide computing power, computing power. They provide storage. They provide databases. They provide networking. They provide security. They provide analytics, monitoring, and they provide machine learning and application development. You might know about each and every banking sectors will be having their own applications, right? ICIC you have, Axis you have, Canara you have, HSBC, and even you have your financial sectors. You might aware about the um LICs, Life Insurance Corporation, right? Kind of financial money view. There are a lot of applications. They started using these applications and they started keeping their data in the cloud. Then only this cloud coming to picture, based on the application usage, based on the resource usage. So it's not like when we use a cloud, when we keep a data in cloud, it's not a secure, it's not like that. When we keep the resources, instead of keeping it in on premises, we are keeping it in cloud. Even on premises is also a secured, cloud as well as cloud is also a secured. We use some security tools or security aspects in the cloud. We call it as role based access control, RBAC. Based on the roles, we secure each and every applications. So We do create the resources with a secured level. That is the reason they started keeping the data in the cloud. That's why we go for the cloud. So when we go for cloud, there are three I told, like AWS, Azure, and GCP. Either anyone can pick. All three resource names are same, only the names are different. That's it. In case of AWS, we use EC2, right? Similarly, we can also create servers in Azure. We call it as virtual machines. I'll tell you when we start Azure. Okay, no worries on that. Just to compare. In GCP, we call it as machines. So some name they'll call it as. Similarly, all three cloud providers provides the same platform. Okay, if you learn to AWS, all three you can match. You can learn three cloud providers at a time, right? So let's spend time on this. Let's get a knowledge and let's walk through these all the resources one by one. Okay, so that's why we go for the cloud. Okay, and also AWS let's allow us to get the rent infrastructure. They provide an infrastructure, right? So you will understand infrastructure in the sense, let's say you have an application. Let's take an example of WhatsApp owned by Meta is the company, right? So Meta provides Meta has their own infrastructure, right? They have a database, they have networking, they have uh, what to say, the features development team, right? These we call it as infrastructure. To build an application, we need to have the sample architecture we need to develop. Suppose if you want to develop any application that you need to integrate, you need to prepare a technical document including the architecture, right? Kind of document we should have, and based on that we do prepare a architecture at the infrastructure level, right? So what this AWS provides, or any cloud providers gives the infrastructure in a rented way. Suppose I wanted to build and deploy that application to used by the users. I wanted to keep some data in the cloud. I wanted to separately maintain the database for WhatsApp application. I wanted to maintain separate networking for my WhatsApp application. I wanted to maintain some security level for the WhatsApp application. I wanted to maintain some storage and networking, right? And databases for my WhatsApp application. All these are provided by cloud providers, either AWS or Azure or GCP. Okay, that is the reason we call it as AWS allows us to get a rent infrastructure instead of buying a physical servers. We will not see, currently WhatsApp as an application is not having any physical servers. All are in online only. All are in cloud only. Even Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook, all three are owned by what? Meta. Meta is having the top leading cloud using AWS, Azure, and GCP. Meta is using all three cloud providers. Are you aware of these? Meta is the top leading company currently, right? So Meta owns all three. So they, some applications they'll keep it in AWS, because Meta giving business to all three cloud providers in the market currently, because everyone should develop, everyone should earn the money, everyone should get knowledge, right? So this is for your information. Okay, now this AWS will be having three computing models. Okay, so what are those three computing models? I'm gonna list it over here. Before moving it to uh, this is my Word document. Let's give a definition for AWS. Okay, I'm gonna share with controlled or with proper document in this session, device. Okay, so AWS represents Amazon Web services, right? Should be aware of the definition. It is AWS. So it's a cloud computing platform by Amazon that offers a wide range of on demand IT services, right? So, what are those IT services? Such as computing power. Are you able to understand all these concepts? Or still you have in a dilemma mode?
Understood, sir.
Understood.
Understood, sir.
Understood, sir. Understood, sir.
Yes, sir.
Understood, sir.
Okay. So, which provides the computing power, storage, databases, right? See, if you're not able to understand, let me ask. I mean, you can ask a question. You can stop anywhere. You can ask those questions. Okay, this concept are very important, especially from cloud. And we going forward, we wanna learn more in the cloud and uh, Docker, Kubernetes. There are Terraform also. We need to uh, discuss, right? Okay, databases, networking, right? So it should provide, it is providing the networking security, right? Securing our applications, analytics, and application, it's analytics. Okay, and application development, right? So these services are delivered over the internet. So basically,
Good morning.
good morning. How is that?
Can we add monitoring?
Okay, you told monitoring. I thought you
Yes.
said good morning.
Sorry.
Analytics comes under monitoring only. Log analytics, right?
Okay.
That's the reason I have given the analytics. Yeah, we can keep that, but analytics, log analytics comes under monitoring only. Once you our application are in the log analytics, based on monitoring only, we will get the logs, right? We'll see that. I'll keep it this way, monitoring. Sorry, I heard that good morning. That's why I told morning. Anyways, let's keep this way, log analytics. This makes sense, right? You were able to understand.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Log analytics, monitoring, and application development. Okay, so these services, are delivered over the internet, right? These services are delivered over the internet on a, so basically pricing model based on the pay as you go, right? Pricing model. So suppose if you are, somebody wants to join, just a minute. Chetan C. Chetan C.
Sorry, sir.
You join now or you join at 7 and disconnecting, keep on disconnecting and
No,
joining?
only I joined, sir.
Why you want to join now? Are you engaged somewhere and are you having engaged important work apart from this?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಮಲ್ಗೋದು ಲೇಟ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಸರ್ ಎಚ್ಚರ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸಾರಿ ಸರ್
Already ನೀವು are you should speak in a professional way that should say some reasons in a professional. ಮಲ್ಗೋದ್ ಲೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಹೇಳೋದ್ ಲೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು. These are all looks silly, right? Think about that, right? See, if I told you that, if I told you same reason to you, how it looks then, right?
Yes, sir.
ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಮಲ್ಗೋದ್ ಲೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ನಾನು 7:30 ತಗೋತೀನಿ, 8 ಗಂಟೆ ತಗೋತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಒಪ್ಕೋತೀರಾ? ಚೈತನ್,
Sorry, sir.
it's not about sorry, it's about your interest. ನಿಮಗೆ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಜಾಯ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಅಟ್ 7. ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ you are not having an interest. That's the reason. Okay, it's up to you then. I don't want to keep the drag. Okay, so AWS let's allows us to get a rent infrastructure, right? AWS let's allows us to get a rent infrastructure, right? So as I told, what are those infrastructure? So they provide, let's correct this spelling first. They provide the storage, they provide the networking infrastructure, they provide the storage, they provide the networking, security, log analytics, and application development. Okay, so based on the, I mean, they provide a rented infrastructure. Okay, instead of buying a physical server. So nowadays also there are physical servers are available, that too from IBM. Okay, so none of are selling the physical servers. Okay, so we will not buy the physical server, we can buy it. I mean, we also need to give a money to the physical server. Similarly, we should also buy from cloud also, but we no need to buy a physical. Everything will be available from cloud, and it's a ready food. We need to, either you wanted to eat one or two items, you can pick from cloud and start using it like that. Suppose if you want to use EC2, you can create it and start using it. Suppose if you want to use EKS, we create and start using it. Suppose if you want to use S3, we create that and start using it. So there are many services, there are many resources which is provided by all three cloud providers, either AWS, Azure, and GCP. So based on our requirement, based on the pricing model, based on the application requirement, we create the resources. We rent an infrastructure from cloud providers. Okay, so let's complete this sentence. This allows us to get a rent infrastructure instead of buying a physical servers. Let's keep full stop. We only for what we have, what we use, and scale anytime. And one more point. So why only we prefer the cloud? We can scale, we can keep our application available all the times. But in case of physical server, we cannot keep, suppose if your weather or climate down, we cannot keep the physical servers always or application be available. It's not possible in physical servers, but in cloud it's possible. We can scale our application at any time, all the time, 24/7, 365 days. We can keep our application up and down, and we keep on monitoring. There are plenty of resources provided by cloud to keep our application online, and we also scales the application and also we monitoring it, and we keep the application available all the times. So that is the only reason we go for the cloud. But it's not possible in physical. Suppose if your power gone case, there is no, you might heard about in banks, server down many times, right?
Yes. Yes.
That will
Yes, sir. In government sectors especially.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Only
sir.
in the government sectors, they'll say physical server down. They were not having any power, they were not having any maintenance, they are not even ready to go for a cloud. Literally, they're not even They don't want to develop in the, they don't want to put a money, invest the money on the cloud. They can decide today only, they can keep it all the resources in the cloud. Why banking sectors will be having the server down then, right? They don't want to invest, they wanted to invest in where they want to get the money. That's a different story, let's keep it aside. So that's how we maintain our servers or resources in the cloud. So that's how we need to maintain, right? So we'll keep our application, we can we can set auto scaling, we can scales the application. Suppose, let's say, when you want to check a results of any government examination results, right? So they wanted to keep the website or application more and more with the scaled users. Suppose if the application are let's say the application called or the website called bescom or any government website, they wanted to check some result, they wanted to browse something. Suppose if they keep for only 100 users, you will get the website or static website will be down, right? If they increase auto scaling, as soon as the users started using it, increasing the instances, as soon as the user down, decreasing the instances, decreasing the scaling, that we can do it from cloud. We cannot do that in the physical servers. They'll keep only the reserved users only, they'll keep only 50 users. But in case of cloud resources, cloud, any resource, we can keep auto scaling or scales the application as much as the users increasing the applications. The application should respond even the single user which is used by the application, even if the 1,000 users also should use that application. That's how we need to maintain, that's why we go for the cloud providers. Okay, and you will understand once you learned all the concepts from the cloud providers. Okay, how application will be available for the users all the times, how networking is handled, how we are securing the application, how the networking, storage, database or log analytics are monitored from the cloud. Okay, now cloud computing, there are 3 cloud computing models. Okay, so one we call it as IaaS, and the second one we call it as PaaS, third one we call it as SaaS. Okay, so I'm going to explain that. Cloud computing models. Cloud computing models. Okay, so the very first is IaaS. Okay, the second one is PaaS. Okay, and then third one is SaaS. We should understand these cloud computing models first. I'll give an abbreviation for this. IaaS represents infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service. IaaS represents infrastructure as a service. Okay, and then PaaS represents platform as a service. Okay, and similarly SaaS represents software as a service. Okay, so let's understand one by one. Okay, the very first IaaS means infrastructure. Let's copy it from here. Infrastructure as a code. What is this infrastructure as a code, and what are all the resources that we have under infrastructure as a service? Okay, so let's talk about this. So this infrastructure as a service provides the infrastructure, such as infrastructure in the sense like we cloud, see all the cloud resources are divided into all 3 cloud computing models. Okay, now let me understand what are these IaaS, PaaS and SaaS. So this infrastructure as a service provides the infrastructure. In the name itself it is saying infrastructure. Okay, what are those infrastructure? That is virtual machines, storage, right? Those are all the infrastructure, networking, and operating system, right? They will provide the basic infrastructure. Based on that, we can change it, change our networking system. We can change our storage. Suppose, let's say, when you're creating your EC2 instance, right? Let's say when we create 2 GB of instance, we can increase the volume, right? We can attach that volume and we can increase that to 3 GB, right? Changing changing the volume is different, but it is providing an infrastructure, right? So that is that is why we call it as infrastructure as a service. Okay, so I'll tell you the definition one more time. Infrastructure as a service, that is, AWS provides the infrastructure such as virtual machines, storage, networking, and operating systems, right? So what we manage, we will manage the operating systems and application and data in it. But what AWS will manage, it manages the physical hardware what we have in the resource that we created. Suppose let's create EC2, it manages the OS, it manages the networking, it manages the data, it manages the application. But what we take care, we taken care to install all the resources inside the EC2, right? Let's say an example, we installed Git, right? We installed Git in EC2, and we installed Jenkins in EC2, and we installed our GitHub Actions in EC2, our self-hosted runner, right? That is the best example for IaaS, right? We have done all these activities, right? Are you guys with me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Those we call it as infrastructure as a service. Cloud provides the resources or infrastructure. Based on the infrastructure, we do our activity. What are our activity? Installing Jenkins, installing Git, installing GitHub Actions. We configure the GitHub Actions, right? That is our, somebody wants to join. Okay. So that is our infrastructure as a service. So that we call it as infrastructure as a service. That is one of the cloud computing model, right? So I'm going to give a definition here. So infrastructure as a service provides the infrastructure such as virtual machines, right? Virtual machines, storage, and networking, right? And operating system. I'll keep it in a short way, that OS, right? And we will manage the what? We will manage the OS and applications, right? Application deployment. Applications and data, while the cloud providers manages the physical hardware. I'll tell you what is this physical hardware. Physical hardware, right? So what are those physical hardwares which maintains the, see here, networking. Okay, so here cloud manages the, like, hardwares in the sense, let's say when you create an EC2 instance, the size of that EC2 instance is 2 GB. Similarly, the size of our S3 bucket will be 10 GB, right? There are some certain resources we create based on the usage, based on the requirement, that is managed by AWS cloud providers, any of the cloud providers like AWS, Azure, or GCP. But here we it provides the infrastructure. Based on that, we do our custom requirement based on the platform that we use, that is provided by the AWS. So the example for IaaS is, as I told, we created an EC2 instance as a platform. Based on that, we installed Jenkins, right? We installed Git. We we configured our GitHub Actions, the self-hosted runner on EC2. So that is the best example for our cloud computing models such as IaaS, that has infrastructure as a service, right? So I'm going to give an example here. Example EC2 VPC. Sorry, VPC EBS. EBS represents elastic block storage. Okay, we're gonna learn going forward with all the resources. ELB elastic, ELB, sorry, EBS. EBS is done. ELB. So these all comes under storage accounts. Okay, S3 bucket, also a S3. Can you guys one mute, please?
Yes, sorry, sir. EBS is like Elastic Beanstalk or Elastic? What do
No,
you-
no, no. Elastic being is not the elastic being stock. EBS, elastic block storage, that
Okay,
comes under storage only.
okay, sir. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So ELB, elastic load balancer, something. Yeah, elastic load balancing. So there are storage that we use. EBS, ELB, S3 bucket, all comes under storage only. We keep our data in the buckets. We call it as S3 bucket. Okay. And then best example for IS is auto scaling. This is very important. Okay. Auto scaling. Auto scaling, we enable the auto scaling for the applications to available to keep our application all the times and up and running with all the regions in the cloud providers, either Azure, either AWS or GCP. And elastic IP. Elastic IP is one of the best example for our infrastructure. So let's say when you install Jenkins, we are for every login your IP will get changed, right? Right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So instead of changing that, we can configure elastic IP. So for every login, always will be same only. So we can configure elastic IP instead of keep on changing for every login. We can keep our application in a stagnant IP called elastic IP. But elastic IP will be a costing, like it's not be available for free. It is costing around. Okay. So we'll learn those. And what else? Route 53. Route 53. Route 53 is one of the resource from the cloud providers we will learn going forward. That is comes under IaaS, infrastructure as a service, and VPN. Okay, our private network. VPC is different and VPN is different. Okay, VPC is sorry, it's not CPC, it's VPC. VPC is the virtual private cloud and VPN is virtual private network, right? That comes under the networking system that we need to keep our resources in a private network. The VPN that you connect when you join the organization, right? Similarly for NAT gateway. These are all the best examples for infrastructure as a service and internet gateway, right? Internet gateway. Okay, and similarly we installed Jenkins on EC2, right? Jenkins installed on EC2, right? EC2, and Git installed on EC2. Git installed on EC2. So these are all the examples for IaaS infrastructure that provides the infrastructure based on our requirement. We customize, we install our resources to compute, to do the cloud compute, right? Even similarly for GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions, self-hosted runner, right? Self-hosted runner on EC2, right? So these are all the examples for the IaaS, right? So that is provided by the cloud providers from AWS, okay? And similarly, The second one that we have here is PaaS, right? Should not be this way. Okay, let's align this later. Now, the second cloud computing model is PaaS. That is, what is this PaaS represents? So PaaS represents platform as a service. So what platform that we have in the cloud providers? Let's understand that and move it forward. Okay. Just a second, please. Okay. So platform as a service. So it represents, it provides the platform. So okay, AWS provides a platform, infrastructure, and runtime environment. Runtime environment in the sense, let's think about runtime self right. Okay, so runtime environment. Let's say you wanted to deploy an application and EC2. It is providing the runtime environment, right? Let's talk about what activity that we did till now in the cloud. We configured EC2 and we deployed an application called Jenkins. Jenkins is an application, right? So that is the platform which is provided by AWS, that provides the platform and infrastructure and runtime environment needed to deploy and run an application, right? The best example for installed Jenkins on EC2, right? While it manages the resources and platform, both resources and the platform. That is the reason we use an an application, right? The best example for it is, we have a resource called AWS Lambda. It has the code only. Developers will write a code, and once we push that to a Lambda, it builds automatically, it provides the result immediately. And our EC2, and not EC2, Amazon ECS, sorry, Amazon ECS or EKS are the best examples for the platform as a service. They are the platform. We build an application, we deploy it into the containerizations to have the application up and running. Those we call it as platform as a service. Okay, the example for platform as a service is Lambda, AWS Lambda. Those are all the resources that we create in the cloud. Okay, we learn those Lambda, EKS, ECS, and there are a lot of resources that we're going to create from the AWS. Okay, so I'm going to give a definition. Provides, AWS provides the platform, infrastructure, and runtime environment needed. Sorry, it's needed. Runtime environment needed to deploy and run the application Okay, run the applications. Let's keep it the applications. And developers only need to write and deploy their application, okay, while AWS manages the resources infrastructure, and platform. Okay, So it manages the infrastructure and it manages the platform. So the best example for PaaS, that is example our AWS Lambda. We call it as Lambda. That is one of the resource, like how we create our EC2, VPC, ELB, S3 bucket, and Route 53. And also there is one more service called Lambda. That is an example for PaaS. We're gonna learn about Lambda later in the further sessions, okay? And also we call it as AWS App Runner, okay? App Runner, okay? And Amazon ECS, that is an example, and also Amazon EKS, okay? And also we have Amazon RDS, Amazon RDS, and also we have code build, code deploy, and code pipeline, or call it as platform. We will learn those resources about after completion of all these Lambda and ECS and EKS and all. Okay, so these are all the examples as a platform. So EKS and ECS they will be having, these are all related to the Kubernetes services. Okay, so we deploy a containerized application into the EKS. So they'll be having own platform which is provided by AWS, and we uh, maintain a platform that provides the platform, and we deploy our application according to this statement. Developers should only write and deploy their application into the EKS. That platform will provided by AWS. That we call it as platform as a service. Okay, are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, third model, that is SaaS. That is software as a service, right? The above. Software as a service. So before to start learning all the resources, we should understand what is SaaS and which resources comes under SaaS, which resources comes under PaaS and IaaS, right? Okay, so SaaS represents software as a service. What is this software as a service, right? So this is a complete software application delivered over the internet, right? Let's take an example of our application WhatsApp. That is the deliverables, means deliverables in the sense it should maintain an infrastructure, it should maintain an internet connectivity to the users. Let's say if I'm sending a message to the user, that message should deliver to the users, and once the message delivered to user, it should provide the double tick in the application feature, the feature level. And if the user reads the message, it should turns to blue, right? You might seen this when you enable privacy, the read receipt message in the application level, right? So those are all maintained by the software as a service, means those features will be developed by the developers, but how it will communicate over the internet, how internet should understand, how your application should understand, hey, user has sent a message, I should deliver to the destination user, and he provided some, he shared some data, he shared some images, he shared some document via the WhatsApp application, how it should notify to the destination users, user A and user B. User A is sending to B some documents, some data, some messages, anything might be. How it will communicate, how it should interact, how user should understand the it should understand the messages that he has sent, right? This will happen over the internet, right? That software is provided by cloud. That we call it as software as a service. Able to understand this? And the best example for this software as a service is your Gmail, your WhatsApp application, your Microsoft 365, right? You might heard about. Are you aware of the Microsoft 365? That provides the complete software. It provides your meetings, it provides your Gmail, it provides your complete your Google account, right? So that is the best
Yes, sir.
example
Yes.
for SaaS. So basically, software is a complete software application delivered over the internet. It should have some internet connectivity, right? And that provides uh, communicates to the internet. We use the software without managing the infrastructure as a platform, right? So that we call it as software as a service. I'll give a definition. SaaS is a complete software application, complete software application delivered over the internet. So we use software without managing the infrastructure, or platform. So that we call it as software as a service. Example or Gmail, right? So Gmail is the best example for SaaS, right? Gmail and Microsoft 365, right? And our Zoom meetings. You might heard about Zoom, right? Zoom meetings. Might be you worked on it. Zoom calls.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That is the best
Yes,
example for software as a service. And Google Docs, Google Document, right? SharePoints, right? And Google Workspace. Google Workspace is the best example for SaaS. Okay, so all these resources are, see, the cloud provider resources are divided into infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. All three cloud providers will be having all three these cloud computing models. Only the cloud is different. Okay, AWS will be having all three cloud providing model. Even Azure will be having the same. Even GCP also will be having the same cloud providers. They have the cloud computing models. So either of one service. So our EC2 comes under where? EC2 comes under our IaaS, right? Infrastructure as a service, right? It's an infrastructure. It's
Yes.
provided by the AWS.
Yes.
So this is how we need to understand the resources, and we'll learn all the resources going forward. Okay. So before moving into that, we need to understand what is the benefit, which resource comes under what model, and what we do with that, and why do we prefer that, right? So that we need to understand. Any questions till now, and any doubts on this? ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಿ.
Sir, how
Sir,
is SaaS connected to AWS?
SaaS
Because you said like PaaS has the EC2 services that has AWS, right? And similarly, PaaS has AWS laptop. But when it comes to SaaS, there were no service, right? Related to AWS.
No, I didn't get your question.
See, sir, like in first one you explained, right? Infrastructure as a service. It has a EC2, EC, that all the things that are present in AWS, right? Those
Yes,
are the
it is
services
having
provided by the.
Hmm.
So similarly, in PaaS also we have AWS Lambda, AWS. That is also services provided by the AWS,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So when it comes to SaaS,
Hmm.
there were no services related to AWS. So
Who told there are no services as from the AWS? Cloud
no,
providers
like
Gmail, right? Where your Gmail
mhm.
server is hosted. Gmail server is hosted from the cloud only, and even Microsoft 365 provided from the Azure, right? Azure, Microsoft Azure,
Yes.
right? And Zoom is provided by some data centers or databases are provided by AWS. They're shared resources, we call it as. Half will be half from AWS and half from the Azure. These are all the softwares, right?
These are all the
Zoom is
complete
in Zoom is
software.
in software, right? And Gmail is your software to send an email, receive an email, and data centers, and which is maintained from the cloud only, either Azure, either AWS or GCP, right?
Okay.
Gmail is provided by GCP, Google Cloud providers, right?
Okay.
And don't only concentrate about the AWS. And these are all the
Okay.
resources from the AWS, but these are from the GCP also, right?
Yes.
Hmm. And some are from the Azure also, right? That's why I've told all three cloud providers will be having all three cloud computing models, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Yes. That's how we need to create a resources as cloud computing models.
Got it.
So everything nowadays, everything all are in cloud only. So they don't want to maintain in the in on premises itself.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Any questions from anybody? Manage GitHub. Meantime, I'll correct the spellings or any this thing. Anybody has any questions? Okay. So if no questions, let's wind up the session today. So from tomorrow, we're gonna discuss more on the resources. Let's pick an EC2 and let's understand what else we can understand, and also let's understand about the availability zones and what do we do deal with the availability zones, and let's understand those availability zones and EC2. Okay, are you clear on the concepts?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
and,
yes,
and
yes,
keep
yes,
in
yes.
mind, okay, and keep in mind there are three ways to create a resources in any of the cloud. Okay, so one is manually, the other one is CLI, and the third one is from the Terraform template. There are three ways that we create from any of the cloud providers, either AWS, either Azure or GCP. So the best example, the EC2 that you created manually, right? You created
Yes, sir.
EC2 manually, right?
Yes,
Similarly,
yes, sir.
we can create EC2. We can create EC2 from the CLI, command line interface. AWS, Azure, GCP will be having their own CLIs. So we will install that and we start using those AWS CLIs. Similarly, we also create a resources from the Terraform templates. Okay, keep that in mind. So I'll keep on remember in every session. So we can create a resources manually. We can create a resources from the CLI, like how you use your CLI in Git, right? Git, Git branch, Git tag, Git checkout, and all right. Similarly, we'll be having a commands for the AWS also. So like that, we do create a resources. Similarly in Terraform, from Terraform. Okay, keep that in mind. So let's wind up the today's session. Let's connect tomorrow same time. Let's talk about more in the how we gonna use CLIs, how do we gonna create a resources manually, how do we create a resources from CLI. Okay, Terraform that we discuss in the Terraform tool. Okay, no worries on that. Okay, let's wind up the today's session. Let's connect tomorrow. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, sir.